Good morning, everybody. This is Morten from Inkish. Today, I have the pleasure of being together with my good colleague Jean, of course, and I think we look very much forward to have a chat with our good friend Matt Brooks. I think that a lot of people know Matt from the industry, from Inca, from AGFA, and now you changed position. I think it came a little bit as a surprise to a lot of us, but welcome here on Inkish, Matt.
Thank you, Morten. Nice to see you. Thanks for the opportunity to chat. Hi, Jean. Good to be with you again.
Hello. Great to see you. In
Likewise.
a different position now.
Yeah.
So, Matt, well, this is, as Morten says, it was a bit of a shock to the system when we saw from where you were to where you have gone. And there must have been an exciting move for you. And can you tell us a bit more about Nazdar Ink Technologies and what actually drove you to accept the position?
Yeah, well, of course. I think some of the reaction so far has been a little bit the same. But I think from my perspective, Nazdar has always been a name, a brand, a partner in the industry for as long as I can remember. And starting off in inks and consumables way back when, before I entered the world of equipment, Nazdar was always a party, a person at the party at the table. So I've known them for a long time. But what particularly sparked my interest and excitement was their strategic moves into water-based technology, high viscosity technology, both for water-based, for packaging, for various market applications. And their ability to be able to really listen to the market and potentially provide solutions that are either not happening or taking too long. And for me, that's a real chance for the market to speed up the adoption of digital. Everybody knows I'm a champion for digital. It always seems to be taking longer than people expect. And I think Nazdar has the skills. They're investing in people, they're investing in their technology, and they're investing in the team to build that strategic vision. So it's an exciting opportunity. Seems like an exciting time to join the company, particularly with some of the projects that have kicked off, and to put my white coat back on a little bit and become a bit more hands-on again in the sort of roadmap development for the industry.
Talking about ink chemistry, I have been talking to a lot of ink manufacturers over the years, and when it comes to, let's say, I'm exaggerating right now, but when you look at let's say the analog inks, both for flexo and for offset, seems that the competitiveness and the actual formulation is not that difficult and not so different from ink manufacturer to ink manufacturer. But this is not the same when it comes to the digital inks. They have other properties and other challenges. So what will your focus be in I think that everybody's talking about speed and how to get rid of the water and make sure that you can have full surfaces and full colors and all these kinds of things. So what will your approach to that be?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Morten. If, you look at traditional processes, and I can talk about flexo, offset, litho, screen even. That's the sort of where I entered the world of ink, way back at the start of my career. There were lots of options in terms of formulation, lots of different inks for different performance properties, drying, adhesion, color gamut, gloss, you name it. But the advantage of those types of chemistries and those processes is they're much less sensitive to the process. And you could pretty much, I wouldn't say put anything in, obviously, but you could pretty much fill it with the right stuff to get the end goal, whether that be adhesion, gloss, speed, etc. And with inkjet and with digital, the pool of options in terms of chemicals, components, carriers, fluids, etc., is a lot smaller. So where do you go? There's only a certain number of vendors. There's only a certain number of opportunities. So it's quite primitive in that sense. And you've seen technology evolve. You've seen printhead developments evolve, and that window is opened a little bit to get more components in to get performance. We saw with some of the advancements in single pass water base the last 2-3 years, where speed became a reality, not a wish. Performance became a bit more of a reality, but then you still see the challenges, like you mentioned, drying. So great performance, great speed, but these machines are monstrous in footprint, and converters are asking themselves, well, how does that fit into my business? I want to partner with an OEM who can help understand my limitations as a business, or I've still got 4 or 5 presses where I've got different applications. How can that happen? And I think what we're doing now is, with this new technology in terms of high viscosity water base, we've developed a chemistry that will perform to the same level as flexo, corrugated, offset. We're able to open up the formulation capability, so we can get more with less. We can dry faster, more solids at a faster rate. So the conversion rate for the ink happens faster. I don't want to give too much of a chemistry lesson here, but in simple terms, we're able to put more down, dry it faster, and get the performance quicker. So what that means is we can potentially run faster. So from an OEM perspective, that's great. It's worth investigating. Less development time, less larger footprint of equipment, and then potentially more opportunity for the converter to partner with. But also, then if I'm the converter, I'm like, okay, well, I really want to invest in digital, but it's X amount of capital investment, not just for the equipment, but the space. I'm going to have to change my workflow, blah, blah, blah. And what this lends itself to is, is consideration to that, because potentially you can reduce that footprint considerably, match the performance better, and answer, some of those pain points that are being faced in the market. That's where we really are able to make a difference with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to add to, obviously you come from an OEM background, and you were building call it a folding carton press to bring to market. So you've been through all the pain points and the challenges, clearly, of what exactly is happening in the market and how stressful it is to actually bring a press to market. And I think in your new position now, that obviously gives you a great advantage in a sense of you've been there, done it, or in a sense got the t-shirt. So your guidance and being able to assist people follow the right path and obviously come up with your ink development. And you mentioned some key words when you were explaining, and obviously, speed, and not just speed to market, but speed of the press, which is always the big thing with converters. They want something that's fast. They want a fast press. So obviously your background clearly gives you a huge advantage in being able to roll out the plans in your new position. Can you give us a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. I think, exactly, Gina. Everybody knows there's huge opportunity in, you mentioned folding carton. We've seen a lot of press placements in corrugated. When you look at the corrugated press placements, though, there's a big footprint. But when you look at the market data, it's still a small penetration of the addressable market, the total opportunity. And there are a number of factors at play as to why that is. There's also flexibles, there's sheet metal, the cut sheet. There's lots of opportunities. Packaging is a huge umbrella. I think it's probably fair to say that most of the success with digital conversion so far has been in graphics and point of sale, but really getting into packaging there's been some barriers. Yes, I've lived that project life cycle as being part of a team, leading a team, being part of a team, going and looking at the market, speaking to converters. So I think the real value what I can bring with Nazdar is just breaking down almost a bit like a glossary of terms and interpretation of the language. Well, should we do this or should we do that? Yes, we could do all of that, but how about we just focus on this because that's either been done and not worked or is still in progress and still under test. So I think that's definitely a strength and a piece of information value that I can bring. But I think also from the experience I've had, it's not just been from the OEM side. I've been involved with some discussions with brands and understanding their needs. And I think I've sat through so many conferences in the last years where somebody from the brand is represented. They want digital, but they don't know how to get there. They don't understand how it fits, but yet everybody's leaning on them to influence the converters. Well, how can they influence the converters if they don't really understand the technology, or they're starting to, and there are definitely a few making moves. And then there's the converters themselves. So what I see is we now can act as a bit like the conductor of the orchestra. We've got lots of band players, and how do we bring them all together to make a nice harmonious piece? And that's really where I see the value that I can bring is those connections, cutting out some of those pain points and making some decisions faster.
I can't help think about, because many people don't realize that inkjet was actually first presented back in '53 and has a very, very long history behind it. And I was just thinking that, of course, the machines are getting better and better, the print heads are getting better and better. And there is like a breaking point when, I guess, from an ink manufacturing and ink developer's perspective, it's viable to go into a new segment. I guess that you have made these kind of evaluations with your new company, but I was also thinking the prices on digital ink is considerably higher than analog ink, and there's of course an opportunity for everybody involved in the ink process. But as an independent OEM without your own hardware, is it not difficult to get into that market, because everybody's selling the presses on a Gillette model, where the high margins on ink is a considerably part of actually earning money on the machines. And I was just wondering, as your company is now, with your skills and your capabilities and your knowledge, as Jean asked, how does that fit into the modern days business models of the hardware?
I think another great question, guys. So feeling them in today, that's for sure. I know firsthand and from my own experience, everybody always goes to the price first. Race to the bottom line. We use the phrase a lot, but I think from an independent, from where Nazdar sits, the difference we can make, the value we can bring, the value proposition. By working with Nazdar, by working with the OEM, we can be involved in the development of the presses up front. So we can really understand how that development process is going to help those converters. And again, when I think about the converter and brands, the slower uptake is because they either are still skeptical in the technology, but a lot of it is, I can get the same performance for half the price. So why should I invest? So from our perspective now, I think it's one, we have some real advantages of our technology. That's for sure. If you think about one of the comments I made earlier in the interview about more for less, we're talking about significantly being able to reduce the footprint of the presses, higher performance print heads, higher performing applications, less drying. So when I look at it that perspective, what we're looking at here is more operational efficiency, the whole value chain. I think we've been so focused in thinking about printing, but printing is only one aspect of it. Packaging as a value chain, the consumer, the retailer, the brand, the converter, and the supplier. So we would be considered as a supplier into that packaging value chain. Well, how about as a supplier, we become the orchestrating that value chain proposition and understand where we can add value and make a difference. And then by doing so, it doesn't matter that we're not selling equipment or other services. Our sole focus is being able to use our technology, which is in the consumables, to leverage the change in the value chain. And once we get that value chain perspective change to the converter, to the brand, to the industry, then we have a much more compelling argument for why our technology should be considered over an OEM that also has its own consumables.
Makes sense.
So, Matt, there's something about you. Is it me again stealing your thunder? Go for it. Morten?
You don't have any questions? I've never met.
I thought I was interfering with yours here. So, we're not used to doing these interviews, and we both got so much to say and so much to ask, I guess. But
we have to do a part two, Jean. We have to do a part two.
I know. I mean, there's so much to ask, and it's like a little time. But Matt, very few people know that you are actually a qualified chemist, which adds a unique perspective to your strategic role going forward now. So how does your technical background influence the way you sort of approach business, the business development part of it now? How does that come into it, and is going to influence how you drive this forward?
Well, I think first and foremost, I understand the challenges technically. So I can put the shoes of the end user on, the hat of the brand, and I can really understand those challenges. And I think also Morten mentioned inkjet starting in '53, way back when. I think that's even before my dad was born. So, and my mum, can't leave my mum out. So that's 7 decades or so, and look at the technology that would have been available then. Quite limited but groundbreaking. The opportunity, the development of equipment, print heads, but also the inks, but not just the inks, the ability, the chemicals to go into the inks and to give those performance. But I think the value I can bring is linking that chemistry to the application and the material. So, is that formulation going to work in a coated or uncoated environment? Once it's being added into a process with a digital fluid, whether that be a primer or an OPV, or is it going to be in a process where there's an analog primer, an analog OPV? Is it going to be digitally embellished? What happens when you go to folding, gluing, creasing, etc.? What happens when you go to die cutting, where you're going to be shredding at a rate of knots, where the performance on the ink is expected to withstand? So the ability I can bring is being able to refine and fine tune the specification. Not necessarily a shorter development time, because I appreciate, as a previous life, that there's always a challenge from sales and marketing on R&D to be faster, but and we can be faster, but we can be faster in smarter ways. So I think it's encouraging and coaching and mentoring the teams to think smarter, look at other raw material opportunities, and be able to deliver what's fit for purpose. There's always a holy grail of a specification. Everybody wants everything, and they don't want to pay for it either. But let's look at the bulk of those performance properties, and that's where I can come and say, right, what's important to this process? What's the key characteristics that's going to drive the change in digital adoption? Bringing in the chemistry, bringing in the material, but then bringing in the equipment and the vendor. So, again, it's really just about listening and bringing those pieces together, and then allowing us to put a functional spec together that's realistic.
Matt, when you look at the different vendors in the market, when it comes to, for example, drying and getting rid of the water, as we spoke about, I think it's quite interesting to see some of the solutions in the market. You have, let's say, the new Ricoh VC80,000 have these fireflies where you have a lot of smaller surfaces to make sure that you have a smooth paper path through the machine. Then you look at the lander that has like printing on a heated belt to get rid of the water, also a great idea. Then you look at the new Fujifilm 1160 CFG, where you preheat the paper to get the relative humidity out of the paper first. You look at the HP 2200, where you have additional dryers in order to get things going. I mean, when you look at all these solutions, how big a component do you see the chemistry to be in the future of, let's say, achieving some of the properties that we want, and speed is one of them? Because I think that the reason why I think that sometimes we forget to talk about why speed is important. And that is obviously because if you look at the investment in machines and you have to repay these machines, somehow the productivity needs to be on a level comparable at least to what similar machines in market cost. Otherwise, you will just put yourself behind the queue. So from a chemistry perspective, do you think there's a lot of things that can still be done on let's say the properties of inks in order to make it dry faster?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's necessary, really. I think because the capital expenditure in terms of investment cost for these types of technologies is high, and return on investment, TCO analysis are key to any decision maker, whether it be CTO, CFO, CEO, board of directors, or whatever. They always ask the same question: is, well, how quick can I get my money back? And I think probably
fair enough, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. We ask the same question, right? We ask the same question when we're doing our day-to-day shopping or investing in our own personal things. So I think probably it's just been a given that the chemistry will work. Or let me rephrase that answer. There are technologies that will allow the chemistry to work. So drying, from my own experience, we knew that there was a combination of drying that would allow water-based inks to run at high speed and deliver performance on paper-based materials. So that's one thing. But then what you quickly realize is, and I think touching back on an earlier comment, is you've delivered this press competitive to analog in a lot of ways. But looking at the overall performance in terms of efficiency, materials, etc., there are some challenges. And the chemistry, I think, gives us the single biggest opportunity now to answer and solve some of those remaining pain points. So I mentioned the high viscosity inks that Nazdar have developed. They are really giving performance properties that will allow faster speeds, but it's not faster print speeds; it's faster drying speeds. So, by process of conversion, a faster drying speed means a faster throughput speed, and potentially a faster, or let's say, more greater performance across a variety of materials. Which means, well, as a converter, maybe now I can print coated, uncoated, craft, clay coat, all on the same press. Perhaps now I can go from a range of thicknesses all the way up. I don't have to think about different pieces of equipment for different applications. And Nazdar is the first to do this in terms of the high viscosity. I remember an IMI conference, I think it was probably from 1999, 2000, where a certain well-known person in the industry was talking about high viscosity and the sort of rheology of screen inks, and one day inkjet will get there. Well, 25 years on, I think finally we're starting to see some inroads there, and I think this is a unique opportunity to be part of the Nazdar team because we have the technology, we've got the core skills that has developed this, that is enabling OEMs and printhead manufacturers to offer something that's not been offered yet, and that's really down to the chemistry.
Fantastic. Gene, I think we should wrap it up because I think that Matt needs to go back to work, right? He cannot sit talking with us all
back
day
to the
long,
day
right?
job.
So do you have any, do you want to say something here on the ending note?
Well, listening to what he's saying, I just think it's very exciting. And I would love to pick this conversation up in a year or so's time when he's actually put quite a few of these things in place, because the pain points that he's hitting right now, I think, are huge challenges. And if he's going to come right with the ink, it's going to change the industry. So I look forward to see what he's going to be developing and following his path now to see where he takes this. So yeah, exciting times ahead, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Jean. Appreciate it. Look forward to it, but let's not leave it a year. Maybe we can do something in between.
Let's hope that. And with that said, Jean and Matt, thank you for. I think that the householding was pretty okay, and with a little bit of editing, I'm sure we can make it look fantastic, right? So, guys, thank you for being here and being part of this Inkish interview here, Matt, and all the best for you and all the fantastic thing I'm sure you will be participating in the future.
Thanks, Morten. Really appreciate it, and love working with Inkish as always. So, looking forward to seeing how it rolls out.